I mean, I never understand where these people make up this fucking nonsense. Firstly, aviation accounts for 2% of Europe's CO2 emissions. Motor transport accounts for 26%. Cement manufactures 14%. How did aviation at 2% become, what did he say, the biggest threat to? The biggest enemy of sustainable fuel. A, rubbish, it's only 2%. B, the new technology that the airlines are investing heavily in reduce fuel consumption per passenger by about 20%. So the 2% is actually coming down. There are significant issues within aviation though. One of them is the crazy way in which environmental taxes are levied. I had to listen to that fellow who's chairman of Friends of the Earth Ireland this week lecturing us all that, aviation doesn't pay environmental taxes. Last year Ryanair paid over 800 million in ETS and environmental taxes, which actually, about 400 million of which got routed back to Ireland, which is supposed to be spent on environmental measures. Guess where it goes? The school bus fleet, which is not a particularly environmental measure. But nevertheless, long-haul traffic, which accounts for 53% of that 2% of CO2 emissions in Europe, is completely exempt. Transfer traffic, where you take 2 flights to get your destination instead of 1, is completely exempt. Why? Because the people who do most of the transfer traffic is Lufthansa, Air France, BA, Iberia, Alitalia, all the legacy airlines. The only people who are paying their fair share of environmental taxes are low-fare point-to-point airlines in Europe. The Americans are not paying it, the Asians don't pay it, the Russians don't pay it, nobody else pays it. So before you listen to more nonsense from some idiot running whatever it is that he's opining on, that the aviation, which currently accounts for 2% of CO2 emissions, is the greatest threat known, and which is rich when there's a war going on in Ukraine and in the Middle East, completely false.
Would you support an extension of aviation tax then to the legacy airlines?
We've been calling for Europe. If Europe says we need to have environmental taxes on air travel, which, by the way, I think is reasonable, it should be done on a fair basis. Nobody should be allowed to land an aircraft in Europe unless you pay your fair share of environmental taxes, and that should apply to the long-haul guys and also to the transfer guys. The Dutch, Frans Timmermans, who used to be the EU Environmental Commissioner, he's Dutch, lecturing everybody for the last, God knows, airlines should pay their fair share, The airline with the greatest number of exemptions, KLM. 84% of its traffic is long-haul and transfer is Schiphol. So as usual, the Dutch there are lecturing everybody else on paying your environmental taxes while they design environmental tax schemes that exempt 84% of Dutch traffic from paying. So you can always tell when an environmentalist is telling bullshit, his lips will be moving.